A Stanford epidemiologist has won against the Biden administration and several other federal agencies in court, alleging that they suppressed his free speech by effectively threatening social media companies with regulation if they didn't suppress his COVID views. And I had the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, who is a professor of epidemiology and health at Stanford University. And effectively, he suggested that what was happening was these social media companies are being approached by the federal government, who were basically threatening a looming regulation if they didn't censor COVID beliefs that were not going along with the effective party lines at the time. Since the beginning of the pandemic, Dr. Bhattacharya has definitely been a unique voice on COVID. Despite not being a political figure, it quite quickly was a viewpoint that the federal government was eager to squelch out. He very early on pointed out that there were huge discrepancies in ages of the people who were dying from COVID and suggested that perhaps it's not the wisest thing to do these just mass lockdowns across the board. He also very early on questioned the mortality rates, which at earliest reports were somewhere around 3% or sometimes even above. And he urged caution to react to that immediate and not yet settled figure, which I think in retrospect, looking back, was something that was very prophetic, because we know now that it was significantly below that rate. Earlier this year, Dr. Bhattacharya was also invited to Twitter's headquarters by Elon Musk to see the so-called Twitter files, which is essentially all of their internal documents, all of their internal emails, like insight into the algorithm and who is being suppressed or boosted. And he saw firsthand that he was indeed being suppressed. And the implication is so much larger than just one private company saying, we don't like these views, and so these are our own standards that we're going to set forth. But the degree to which the federal government and several agencies, including the CDC, the FBI, and the Biden administration, were actually in conversation pretty constantly with these social media companies is really damning in terms of implicating them and actually suppressing First Amendment protected speech through this proxy. And so Dr. Bhattacharya said to me that this is akin to a second Enlightenment. I thought that was a very apt observation, because it's not just about COVID. It's not just about doctors with different beliefs on an emerging pandemic. This is about how the federal government can interact with social media companies, which effectively have become the public square, but are private entities. So while these social media companies do have the right to censor you as they choose, and they do have Section 230 protections, the federal government now cannot use them and weaponize them against American citizens' speech to effectively do the dirty work for them and suppress otherwise protected free speech.